Paul's speaking, and he says, to keep me from becoming conceited because of these surpassingly great revelations, there was given to me a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in your weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I will delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. During the hurricane season of 1991, there was a low-pressure hurricane called Hurricane Grace. I don't know if any of you here remember Hurricane Grace. It had a very short lifespan. It was one of the weakest hurricanes in history. And upon hitting the island of Bermuda, people were expecting it might do a lot of damage, it might not do a lot of damage, we don't really know. Had about 25-mile-per-hour winds. And for a hurricane, that's a little bit. It's not very much. And it hit this little island of Bermuda, and it did nothing to it. So, of course, it didn't really pose much of a threat, and began to dissipate as it moved north. Meteorologists began to joke, this is possibly one of the calmest storms in history. It had all this media attention. Go figure. While Hurricane Grace was traveling north, what's known as an Atlantic cyclone was formed up there in Canada and Nova Scotia and all those cold places. And these cold winds came and blew to the south. It was just large and dangerous, and it didn't really pose much of a threat at all. It was strong. And on October 28th of 1991, this Atlantic cyclone met up with Hurricane Grace. And the two met in what's described as a combination of energies.
Perfect storm.
Blasted into each other. And Hurricane Grace, her winds escalated from 25 miles per hour to 100 miles per hour. And I'm going to read you a report that Robert Case, meteorologist, said. He says, when a low-pressure hurricane, or a low-pressure system along the front moved into Maritimes, southeast of Nova Scotia, it began to intensify due to cold, dry air introduced from the north. These circumstances alone could have created a strong storm. But then, like throwing gasoline on a fire, a dying Hurricane Grace delivered immeasurable tropical energy to create the perfect storm. Ultimately, this combination of that which was weak and that which is strong resulted in something that was perfect. The combination of that which is weak and that which is strong resulted in something that is perfect. This reminds me of 2 Corinthians 12, where Paul the Apostle speaks about this weakness. Now, many of us think about Paul the Apostle as a strong man, as a great man. I mean, in fact, he wrote 2/3 of the New Testament. Not many of us think of him as a weak man. Paul had lashes on his back. In fact, the Bible says that he had been whipped so much that had he had one more lash, it would have revealed his spine. So So you can imagine this man was probably a cripple. Now, we're not really sure what this thorn in his flesh that he speaks of, a messenger of Satan to torment him. We're not really sure what it is. Some people say it's probably his physical condition due to this injury. Perhaps it was a temptation. We don't really know. But regardless of the fact, we know it was a weakness. And what does Paul do? He does what many of us would have done. I mean, the good Christian thing to do is obviously pray. You know, and I mean, he figured, hey, you know, well, it took 3 days for Jesus to rise from the dead, you know, God is 3 and 1. Well, 3 is a good number. Let me pray the holy number, you know? 3 is the number of completion in the Bible. So this is a really holy thing to do. And of course, Jesus will heal him. And obviously, this man had every right to ask God to heal him. Every right. He suffered. He was a missionary out in the middle of nowhere. He's been shipwrecked with natives. He's evangelized the gospel. He's a founder of Western Christianity as we know it. By all means, Paul deserved to be healed of his weakness. Instead of removing his thorn on his side, God does something different. He answers in a different manner. He tells Paul, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in your weakness. My grace is made sufficient for you, because my power is made perfect in your weakness. Out of this, Paul learned that God's power is made perfect through his illness, his suffering, his torments, his trials. And we conclude that even though he said, you know, I'm a holy man, I'm holy enough to be healed of this. God says, no, I'm going to use this. There's nothing wrong with Paul praying this prayer, God, remove this from me. Sometimes God does do that. There's nothing wrong with Paul saying these things. And sometimes our weaknesses are our blessings. Because when we are weak, God is made strong. Personal story from my own life. My dad was a very devoted man in the church. He became a Christian before I was even born. He was a Bible study leader, youth pastor. I mean, you name it, he's the guy. The sound guy, this guy. He did everything. You know, he was almost elected deacon. Then he decided not to do that. And he's the most loving man you'll ever meet. I mean, over here, I try to talk about certain things. We get along very well. Sometimes, sometimes we clash. But I always describe him as a brave man. He was very loyal to my mom. And I looked at him as a hero. Now, as I began to leave my childhood, my dad began to develop an illness in his back. A degenerative spine disease. And this person who I looked up to as God, this holy man, I mean, he did everything. Did the Bible studies, he prayed, he read me stories, I mean, he was a holy man by all definition in my eyes. And he began to develop an illness. I remember sometimes he would yell at night because his back was in so much pain. I remember praying in my heart, God, I hope he, please help him. I want him to survive at least until tomorrow so I can see him.